Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me again this morning on Next on the Tee. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro, and today I am honored to have two great gentlemen, both returning guests, with me this morning. First up is going to be Steve Mona. You'll recall that Steve is the CEO of the World Golf Foundation. He is also annually named among the most powerful men in golf. We'll talk, amongst other things, about all the things he's involved with regarding growing the game of golf, the things going on with the first tee, the new drive, chip, and putt contest, the economic impact that the game of golf brings to every place it comes to. So we are excited to have him back with us. He's going to join us in just a few moments. Later in the show, we'll be joined by 2003 PGA champion Shaun Micheel. We'll relive more memories from his great victory at Oak Hill, plus his victory over Tiger Woods at the 2006 Match Play Championship, and what it was like when he met his favorite band, Kiss, backstage after winning the PGA. Shaun's a great guy, and we look forward to having him back on the show with us. He'll be here about 20 minutes from now. But before we get started, we want to kick off the show by saluting the brave men and women serving in our military and everyone listening in on the Armed Forces Sports Radio Network. Thank you for your daily sacrifices and all you do to keep the rest of us safe. We also want to thank those of you who served or have served in every branch of the military and public service. We truly appreciate what you do to preserve our freedoms and our liberties. It's through your strength and efforts that our way of life is even possible. Our sincere thanks as well to Stephen Lee, Dennis Farrell, and all the folks at Armed Forces Sports Radio. It's an honor for us to be part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesportsradionetwork.org. We also want to thank everyone listening in on other great radio sites across the internet, iHeartRadio, as well as Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, Blog Talk Radio, Player.fm. And like I say, we can't thank all of you for listening to the show every single week, downloading the show as a podcast. You can also find us on iTunes as well. We want to give a special shout-out to our good friends over at lastwordonsports.com, Mike Novak, Ben Kerr, Mark Medeski, the great staff over there. If you are looking for a new place to find everything you're going to want to know across every sport, not just the major ones, every sport, go to lastwordonsports.com. Their site has fantastic content. Their staff of writers are outstanding. You're going to be glad you checked that site for your sports news every day. So go there and then bookmark it. Again, lastwordonsports.com. And if someone's dragging you to the mall or to the grocery store, or you're just tired of the same old on your commute, take us with you. You can download a couple of apps, Player.fm and Stitcher. You can download those apps on your smartphones, your mobile phones, and then you can stream or download our show and then take us with you. We'd love to be a part of your commute, or like I say, when you're out and about, we'd love to be there with you. All right. We've got our first guest already hanging on the line with us. So now back on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Steve Mona. Let me give you a little more background on Steve. He is the CEO of the World Golf Foundation, the organization that manages the World Golf Hall of Fame, the First Tee, and Golf 2020. He was the CEO of the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America for 14 years, the executive director of the Georgia State Golf Association here in Atlanta for over a decade. And like I said at the top, he is annually named by Golf Digest as one of the most powerful people in the game of golf, and I am excited that he is back and next on the tee with me this morning. Good morning, Steve. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Well, good morning to you, Chris. It's great to be back with you. I always enjoy my time with you.
I appreciate that. You know, Steve, you're always on the go. I read that you actually only get to play about 25 rounds of golf a year, which is a bit ironic for me, for the guy who's the CEO of the World Golf Foundation, like I say, one of the most powerful men in the sport. Do you ever get the urge when people are tugging on you and wanting you to come here or there and say, you know, hey, can I get around to golfing here at some point?
Well, I love to play the game, and despite the fact 25 is probably about the right number, I am able to get out and practice and get out to the practice tee a fair amount. So I probably have a golf club in my hand every week, just not for long periods of time, unfortunately.
I guess that's something. So, Steve, the RNA has a big vote coming up here regarding female membership. How closely are you working with them on that?
Well, I'm actually a member of the RNA, and they're one of our board organizations of the World Golf Foundation. And that vote actually took place on Thursday of this week, and I'm delighted to report that the club overwhelmingly voted to admit women as members, number one.
There you
and
go.
then number two, So that was important, very important. And then number two, as important, is the fact that about 15 or so women will be fast-tracked and become members probably before the end of the year, because the normal process calls for about a 5 or so or longer year waiting period. And if you think about it, that would have been a long time before any women would have been part of the club. So the club committee is going to fast-track a number of women, which I think are great. So we'll see a pretty good population of women rather quickly in the club.
That's fantastic. Is it still hush-hush, or do you have a couple of names you could throw out?
I'm not privy to that, so it would be speculative who those might be. But I do know one thing, just based upon what I've read, that the club's interested in women who have made contributions to the game and who have been part of the game. So that may give you some indication the direction the club's going to move. Okay.
I read an article on the USGA's website about how golf courses benefit people and wildlife. So, not only just, for the players out there, but for the wildlife in the surrounding area. The article talked about how preserving the green spaces that golf courses provide improves the environmental quality for everybody. And the article goes on to say that the USGA supported 90 university studies and 7 research projects to evaluate what the relationship is between golf and the environment. And among other things, the report states that golf improves the air quality, absorbs and filters rainwater, and restores formerly damaged land areas like landfills and mining sites that golf courses come in and actually cleaned up. Can you talk about those studies and what golf's overall environmental impact has been?
Absolutely. Sustainability is a huge part of golf's focus today and will be for the foreseeable future. In fact, I don't see a day where it won't be part of the important issues that golf is addressing. There are several things to keep in mind. First of all, that golf courses occupy over 2 million acres in the United States alone and create tremendous green spaces in largely urban areas. And so that by itself is significant. And as you pointed out, golf courses actually serve as filters for air quality, for water quality. And the best way to think about this is that if you properly site, design, construct, and maintain a golf course, it will actually enhance a natural environment and not detract from it, as some have put forward over the years. So we believe that golf courses are actually part of the solution with respect to our sustainability issues. Now, of course, we have to be responsible as an industry, and we're doing that. Only about 15% of golf courses are using water that's being bought from essentially the city or the municipality. So most of the golf courses are using either reclaimed water or water from lakes that they've created on their own property. So golf courses actually are part of the solution, and we're really proud of that as an industry.
Earlier this year, Steve, we all saw, a couple of major golf courses sort of pitching in this idea of environmentally sound, if you will, movement. We saw how Pinehurst was restored to its original design with natural vegetation, centerline watering to reduce their maintenance expenses and their water consumption. Valhalla reduced the number of irrigation heads from 3,000 down to 800, which also lowered their water consumption too. Is this something that you and the major golf governing organizations are going to be encouraging more and more courses to do, to be more environmentally friendly and to make the game more affordable ultimately for everyone to play?
Yeah, that's exactly right, and you hit on two important points. One is the environmental sustainability of a golf facility is critical, and that's what events like what you saw at the U.S. Open this year with respect to how Pinehurst was presented. That really, hopefully, sets an example. Now, not every golf course can go with that look, but we think that if we're playing our National Open Championship on a course with that kind of a look, it will encourage others to do so as well. And then secondly, you get into the economics, which is huge, because sustainability goes beyond just environmental matters. It also speaks to economic sustainability. And one of the issues that we have to confront as a game is the cost of it. And maintenance typically after a course is in place is the highest cost ongoing that a facility has. So if that can be reduced or at least moderated, then obviously it's going to make the game more affordable. So everybody wins in that equation.
Yeah. I saw Sea Pines, the Sea Pines Resort reduced their waste management cost by $40,000 and diverted 215 tons of waste from a local landfill. So kind of getting back to the point that I was looking at the article a moment ago that talks about restoring land. That's another piece, right? Going into former landfills or other sites that might have been used back in the day for something. It mentions mining sites, but going in and reclaiming that land, cleaning it up, if you will, and then actually building a golf course on top of that. Boy, that seems like a couple of wins at least.
Absolutely, and see, that's one thing that makes golf unique. We can actually construct courses on degraded property and in areas that you really can't use for really any other purpose, but yet they make great golf courses in some cases, and they essentially take a blighted piece of property, that they restore it. It's environmentally sustainable. It's economically sustainable. It becomes an asset for the community. So that's a role that golf can play as far as contributing to the health of an overall community, which is something that gets overlooked a lot when people think about the game.
Yeah, so it sort of goes right into the economic impact, right? The economic impact that a golf tournament can have on their communities is probably something, to your point, people don't realize all that well. I read that last year's PGA Championship up in Rochester brought over $100 million to their local economy. I'm sure it's got to be something very similar to what happened or what it brought to Louisville a couple of weeks ago, at the PGA Championship. Have you heard, the numbers come in for what the economic impact has been to the Louisville community?
The numbers were very similar to the year before, so somewhere north of $100 million. So once again, it was a tremendous economic impact, and that's really just part of the picture. When you look at golf on a national basis and all elements of golf, it generates almost $70 billion of economic impact to the U.S. economy. It employs nearly 2 million Americans and creates about $55 billion in wage income. So a lot of people, those 2 million people, are making a living from the game, besides providing, obviously, great recreational opportunities. So golf really is a major part of our economy and also contributes mightily to the charitable impact of our communities as well.
Right. So that also, now that gets into the health benefits that the game of golf brings to people to play the game. Right. I read a study by the Karolinska Institute over in Sweden, and they found that the death rate for golfers is 40% lower than other people of the same sex, age, and socioeconomic status, which equates to about a 5-year increase in life expectancy. So, is that something also that the governing bodies are looking at? I think we talk a little bit about health. You can make the stretch. You're walking, especially if you're out there walking from a cardiovascular perspective, but I think that's another thing that we don't hear enough about. I think people kind of snicker when they say our golfers athletes. Well, you walk in how far? 5-6 miles if you're walking a golf course in the course of a day. Up and down hills and that sort of thing. But and the exercise piece is also a big benefit that I don't think gets enough attention.
Yeah, that's right, and that's one of the areas that we've tried to promote much more strongly over the last several years. But the fact is that there are health and wellness benefits that are associated with golf. You mentioned walking. If you walk 18 holes of golf, you're going to take about 10,000 or more steps, which is a daily recommended allowance, if you will, for healthy individuals. Number two, you're going to burn about 2,000 calories. And it obviously goes down if you're if you ride in a cart. But even having said that, you're still going to take riding in a cart about 1,500 calories or so that you're going to burn. So the fact is that there are significant health and wellness benefits associated with the game. The Humana Challenge PGA Tour event each year actually highlights that, and that's what that event's all about. And so we know that we as an industry need to do a better job of informing the general public of the benefits to playing golf from a health and wellness standpoint, and they're there, and it's just a matter of communicating them better.
One of the other initiatives that you've taken up is also trying to raise golf participation. I think last time we talked about that there's a target of about 30 million by the year 2017. And you guys do such an outstanding job, with the first tee and introducing kids to the game. Talk about what's going on with the first tee. Plus, now, like I said in the intro, you've got the new drive, chip, and putt contest that takes place, every year now at Augusta National. Talk about developing golf's next generation of players.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually 5 different initiatives that the industry is getting behind now, which I'll just briefly touch on. But you mentioned the first tee. I'll just start there. The first tee, which is a youth development program that uses golf as a platform to teach life skills, reached more than 3.6 million young people in 2013. And the first tee has a goal to reach 10 million young people between 2012 and 2017. And so we're well on our way of reaching that goal. And the whole premise of the first tee, obviously, is to create the next generation of golfers, but also to create the next generation of leaders, because character development, the 9 core values, is a big part of the first tee, as are the 9 healthy habits to teach young people good choices with respect to diet, nutrition, etc. So it's a very comprehensive program. It's been very successful and will continue to grow as we move forward. You also mentioned the drive, chip, and putt. That's a relatively new program that was initiated by the Masters Tournament, the USGA, and the PGA of America. And I can tell you this year that there were 256 local qualifying sites that were conducted in all 50 states and all 41 PGA sections during the months of May, June, and July. We'll see the finals again the Sunday prior to the Masters next year, where you'll see 40 boys and 40 girls compete. I haven't seen the total numbers this year, but I can tell you that it's in the tens of thousands of young people will have gone through some form of qualifying all over the country. So that's really proven to be a great grassroots program to get young kids interested in the game.
Yeah, no, that was a brilliant idea. Whoever came up with the idea of putting that together, particularly at Augusta National and having it there, that's a stroke of genius. I think that's going to do a world of good for the next generation and developing people to have, or kids to have interest in the game. Sort of dovetailing off that a little bit, Steve, the Get Golf Ready program that the PGA has. You can go on their site, the PGA.com or PGA.com. But I think that's another good thing, because I think the conception of the game of golf is that it's incredibly difficult. And I'm not going to say that it's not, because, in my mind, it takes you 10 years just to get bad at the game. But playing it and getting people interested in the game, and the Get Golf Ready program to get you some lessons, right? The beginners, get them into the game, get them some lessons at an affordable price, I think is another great idea.
Well, it's been the golf industry's number one adult player development initiative for the past 5 years. In the course of this year, we'll have about 4,400 certified facilities throughout the country. And by the way, if you go to getgolfready.com, and there's an area on the website where you can put your zip code in, and all the facilities within about a 10-mile radius of your zip code will appear, so you'll know which ones are closest to your own location in case you're interested in participating in the program. But we also know that we'll have about 100,000 people go through the program this year. And the whole focus on it, as you suggest, Chris, is to get people ready to play the game in a fast, fun, and affordable manner. It's 5 group lessons with no more than 8 to a group, $99, and it includes an on-course component with each lesson. And in addition to that, it also helps to teach people about the conventions of the game, because some people have never played the game, find some of the etiquette and just some of the traditions of the game a little hard perhaps to grasp. So this also teaches that piece. So our goal is, when you get done with those 5 lessons, you're pretty comfortable around golf and around a golf course, and you can venture out on your own and play the game. The other thing we know is that after the first year, 80%, it's more than 80% actually, of the people who graduate from the program are still in the game a year later.
Nice.
And 5 years later, that number declines to only 60%, which is still a very strong retention rate. So we know the program works. We know people stay in the game. It's just a matter now of getting more people into the program.
Steve, one of the things that I think is important for our listeners, and I like to, you've been on the show with me before. You actually joined us as well on the football side on a Thursday night tailgate show. But one of the things that I think is important for our listeners to continue here is the charitable contributions that the golf industry and the PGA make. When you look at the amount of dollars that you guys generate for different charities across the country, it's more than Major League Baseball, the NBA, the NFL, and the NHL combined. Talk about the dollars that the PGA or that the golf industry gives back, if you will.
Well, the golf industry on an annual basis generates about 3.9, so almost $4 billion a year for charitable causes, almost all of which are unrelated to golf. And so the way that takes place is there are about 15,000 facilities in the country. About 75% or 12,000 of them conduct, on average, 12 charitable events. And on average, each one generates about $27,000 to charity. So you can do the math there. That's where the vast majority of the dollars come from. And here's the other thing. There are about 25 million people who play golf in the United States. 12 million, or almost 50% of them, participate in a charitable tournament during the course of the year. And that's the power. That's really where the majority of the money comes from that then gets dispersed to these charities. In addition to that, we surveyed the charities themselves, and 2/3 of the charities that are the beneficiaries of golf events say that those golf events are either somewhat or very important to the annual budget of that particular charity. So you can just do the math there that a significant amount of charities are heavily reliant on golf charitable events to essentially underwrite their operation for the year.
Right.
So it's critically important to the American way of life that golf be used as a charitable fundraising vehicle.
Yeah, no question. One more, Steve, before we let you go. As sports fans, we always hear about the media battles that go on for the rights to the NFL or Major League Baseball, but the USGA is going to have a new partner next year, and they'll be moving away from NBC and ESPN and going over to Fox, who paid $1.2 billion for the rights to the U.S. Open and the other USGA championships over a 12-year period of time. How do you feel about golf's growth within the media?
Well, it's been tremendous, and if you mentioned the USGA deal with Fox, you should also note that the PGA of America did a long-term deal with NBC last year for the Ryder Cup, so that NBC has that out well into the future. And then a couple of years prior, the PGA Tour did long-term deals with CBS, NBC, and Golf Channel, which are now together, obviously,
right,
for its event. So, if you look at golf from the standpoint as an entertainment vehicle, it's really never been stronger than it is today. There are more dollars in the game coming from the entertainment side, whether it be TV rights fees, whether it be sponsorships, and that's making the game very strong at that level. The amount of people that are watching the game is at an all-time high. If you take a cumulative account of how many people are tuning in during the course of the year. So golf is very, very healthy from the standpoint of an entertainment vehicle, and we just need to capitalize on that because we know that there is a translation from people who get into the game as fans and then ultimately as participants. But the general health is very strong when you evaluate golf from an entertainment standpoint.
Yeah, and I think that's something that people have a misconception about, right? And I think we touched on it a little bit last time, but the thought always is that if Tiger Woods isn't in the event or winning the event, people aren't watching, and that's just not true, right?
In terms of the ratings of an individual tournament, Tiger definitely moves the needle. There's no question about it. But if you look at it from the standpoint of how many people on a cumulative basis tune in to, say, PGA Tour or just televised golf during the course of the year, he really doesn't have any impact on that. People are going to watch their golf. it may not be as concentrated around one event, and that's definitely the case with Tiger, most definitely. But during the course of a year, the actual number of people tuning in has continued to increase. So, and we're delighted with that. And then furthermore, with golf coming into the Olympics, been overlooked too. Golf's going to become part of the Olympics in 2016. That's going to fuel some more growth in the game on a worldwide basis in the countries that previously haven't really been part of the golf culture, if you will. So the long-term view for golf as an entertainment property is very strong.
Yeah, no, it really is, and that's really the message that I was hoping to get out there, and by having you on the show is to make sure that everyone really understands the game of golf is growing. It's growing from a media perspective. The impact that it has on the economies and the countries that it's in is enormous. The charitable contributions that it gives to to organizations that are doing some good things, and to your point, not all of them have to do with the game of golf, is outstanding. So thanks for being back on the show with me again this morning, Steve, and to put that out there, because I think that's a message that, golf fans, our listeners, and people in general just need to hear.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Chris, and it's a pleasure to be with you, and I look forward to doing it again soon.
I hope so. Take care, Steve. Before, just one other thing, how can our listeners follow you over social media and to continue to follow up on the message?
Well, the best thing to do is just to follow us through our website, and the best one for that is the Golf 2020 website, and then all the various social media elements are evident through that. Golf2020.org, and then also wearegolf.org are the two websites. We didn't really get into our relationship with the Congress in Washington, D.C. during this segment, but we have a pretty significant presence, and We Are Golf is part of that. So those are the two ways that I would encourage listeners to keep track of our activities, and they can connect real well with us through either of those vehicles.
Great. Next time we will get into more about We Are Golf, and I can't thank you enough for being here this morning, Steve. Hopefully we have you back real soon to get into that, and in the meantime, all the best to you and your family and everyone at the World Golf Foundation.
Thanks very much, Chris. Appreciate being part of your show this morning.
All right. Take care, Steve. Thanks again.
You bet.
Steve Mona, great guy. Again, take a look at the sites that he mentions. The We Are Golf site, yeah, and they Golf Day was here a few months ago, and he and several big names within the golf organization were talking to Congress about the economic impact that the game of golf has. So check it out there online. All right, we've got our next guest already hanging on the line with us. Want to get right to him. Now joining me on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Shaun Micheel. Let me remind you about Shaun's background. He's originally from Orlando, Florida, later moved to Memphis, Tennessee. Why? Because his father's one of the original pilots for FedEx. He actually attended the same high school that I did, Christian Brothers. We were just a few years apart. He actually played collegiately at Indiana University, turned pro in 1992. He won once on the Nike Tour, now the Web.com Tour, at the Greensboro Open in 1999. The year prior, he won internationally at the Singapore Open. We all remember his fantastic win at the 2003 PGA Championship. He won that tournament with one of the greatest finishing shots in PGA Tour history. And I am certainly honored to have him back with me this morning on Next on the Tee. Hey, Shaun, thanks for being here.
Hey, Chris. Good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic. You?
Oh, all is great. I'm sitting here in the parking lot of my hotel in Nashville. Got a big soccer tournament this weekend with my son. So it's my chance to be dad.
There you go. Good for you.
Yeah.
Shaun, before we get on the course with you, I read a couple of stories that I bet not many people know about you. First, you're a big Kiss fan, and you actually got to go backstage with them right after you won the PGA back in '03. I love the picture of you with Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley. Could you share how that happened?
You know, I've been a Kiss fan for a long time. You know, everybody knows they just finished up their 40th year kind of tour last month with Def Leppard, and you know, I grew up kind of listening to their music, and actually got a chance to meet them in 1997 in Greensboro, and it was just kind of a quick meeting, and got to know their manager, Doc McGee, a little bit. And then after I won the PGA Championship, I got a phone call. I was home, actually. I didn't realize that I'd gotten into the Bridgestone the week before, the week following the PGA. So I had already had plans to fly home, which I did. And I get a phone call, and it was Paul Stanley calling me, inviting me to come up. And of course, by now it's been arranged that PGA Tour was going to form a relationship with them for that next week in Columbus, put me backstage and meet the guys. And it was great because the new guitar player, Tommy Thayer, and I have really forged a great friendship, over the last 10, 11 years. And it's been an interesting one. I think I did a feature for Golf Magazine mid-2000s with me on the cover doing dressed up as Tommy and the original guitar player Ace Frehley. So it was interesting trying to fit into those spandex pants, but I was a little thinner back then. I was probably about 175, and I'm about 190 now. So got to work on that. But I just love their music, and got a chance to meet him. And Tommy's a golfer. He loves golf. Doc McGee, their manager, is a golfer as well. And so that's really how our relationship has really kind of kicked off. Now, I took my daughter, she's 7, to her first Kiss concert in June here in Nashville at the Bridgestone Arena, and we went backstage and talked to the guys and got our picture made, and anybody can see that on Twitter with me and my daughter. But so it was her first Kiss concert, and
wow,
it's been a great friendship that I have with those guys.
That's fantastic. I also read a story back in 1994. You were honored by the Sons of the Confederate Veterans for your bravery after you saved 2 people from a sinking car that happened while you were at a golf tournament in North Carolina, which sounds like an amazing story. What happened?
Well, there's a guy I was traveling with, Doug Barron, who actually played the tour and for a number of years before he decided to give it up. We were playing the TC Jordan Tour, which has now become the Hooters Tour. And, both of us, we'd only been a pro probably, a year and a half. I turned pro in 92, and I think he did as well. And we were just going out to play a practice round, and we were in New Bern, North Carolina. The hotel was located right on the Neuse River, which for anybody that's been there or seen it knows how wide the river is. Anyway, there was this car, and like the parking lot was water level. The road was actually a little bit more elevated, and we heard this commotion. We saw this car go off this embankment, which was probably 20 feet, and he and I were like, wow. But you don't know what. You see this how they filming a commercial, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we ran over there, and because we were on river level, there was nobody else down there. And I ran over, and, I was in my golf clothes, and we were required to wear pants as well. So I stripped down to my boxer shorts, and I swam out, which at the time was probably, 20, 30, 40 yards off the shore.
Wow.
And another guy that owned a gas station on the corner also had scaled down this embankment. And there were 2 elderly people in there, a couple that had been grocery shopping, we found out later. She was in the front seat. He was in the back. I swam out there. By the time I get out there, the other guy comes out, and somehow we get the front door open because the windshield had collapsed. But by now the water is, the car's going under, and it's getting pulled out.
Right.
So anyway, the guy, he got the lady out, and the gentleman in the back wouldn't come out. And so I just grabbed him and yanked him out of the car. And he was a pretty good-sized guy, not heavy-set in any way, but just a tall-wise. And pulled him out and didn't have to swim too far before we could touch. I mean, it was probably 5 or 6 feet deep, probably where the car ultimately sunk. But obviously it was getting deeper. But we got him back to shore, and by now the ambulances and fire department and stuff have been there, and just pulled him out and pulled him back up to shore, and I kind of went on my merry way, I guess. Did a few little interviews, I guess, with the people, and anyway, it was something I'll never forget. It really made an impact on me, and my family. I remember, Chris, this is before the age of cell phones, but my dad he told me later that he had to calm me down because I was talking a mile a minute. I was pretty amped up, I guess, but it was an incredible, incredible really the way that it kind of unfolded, because we stood there not knowing what's going on, and then you realize nobody else is going in to help. So it was really kind of not much else you can do. But, those stories are presented every single day. I mean, we read about those great stories, and, I think any one of us, if given that opportunity, would do the same thing. So it's a, proud moment in my life that I was able to help some people that were in need. But I'll never forget it.
Yeah. Do you ever find out what happened? I mean, you say the guy in the back seat didn't want to come out. Was it a planned event?
What happened was is they had come down. They had been at the grocery store. Their trunk was filled with groceries. They had come down. There was a pretty steep hill, and they I guess come unexpectedly. The light had turned red. Well, instead of hitting the brake, she floored it and hit the gas, and probably went another 50 yards before she went through this barricade, and then of course 20 to 30 feet down to the water. And it's amazing the impact didn't kill him.
Right.
Back in those days, were people wearing seatbelts? I can't say that I was. So it's hard to say, but they were very lucky. And I think both of them have since passed. Somebody sent me a note a few years ago, and they were both in their probably early 70s at the time anyway. So you look back 20-some years ago, 21 years ago now. Yeah. Anyway, like I said, something I'll never forget.
Yeah, amazing story. Shaun, in 2003, you after having won the PGA, you got to play in the Grand Slam of golf with the guys who won the 4 majors that year. So Jim Furyk, Mike Weir, Ben Curtis were a part of the foursome getting to play in that event. Was that a fun event to be a part of for you, or was there some serious competition going on between the 4 of you?
Yeah, I think the first day, I think we were all kind of loose, and look, it's a beautiful resort on Kauai, and it was fun because you got to take the PGA of America really, splurges on the guys that get in. They fly you over first class. I think you can bring your family. I think you can bring 4 other guests. There's like 8 or 10 of you over there. It was a good way to kind of get to know the other players away from all the, I would say, the kind of the media hype of what we had just kind of accomplished and everything. But it was a tremendous event, and I think every year, I'm disappointed when I see that some guys decide not to go play, and I don't think they really understand. It's not really about the money. It's just about getting to know the other guys and doing something. High regard, high respect for the PGA of America and what they do. I mean, I think it's a unique event. It was a little nerve-wracking also because it was the first time that TNT was going to broadcast it live. And as you know, golfers, we have some pretty colorful language out there on the golf course. And I think that was the first thing that we were really counseled on was, hey, Bill Cratchit and, those guys were on live TV here, so let's kind of keep this a family-oriented event. And I was nervous about that. I think we all kind of mutter under our breath a little bit when nobody would even hear you or even be able to read your lips. But, things happen, and of course it's 18 holes. So, like I said, it was a great resort. It was just fun being over there. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was obviously a sense of accomplishment to have qualified event. I mean, I think that may be the hardest event to qualify for. I mean, we talk about the Masters, we talk about all these great championships around the world, but if you think about the Grand Slam of golf, may be the hardest event to qualify for, and it felt pretty special. So I look back at it with a lot of fond memories. There was a lot going on that week. There was a lot of fun. There was a lot of activities that they had scheduled and arranged for us. We could lay by the pool, did some dune buggy stuff. It was just a lot of fun, and I'd love to get back.
But yeah, no doubt. I bet you would. I'd love to see you back. During the course of that event, I saw the PGA put together a list of 20 questions that they asked you guys, and I'm curious about some of the answers you gave and how they might have changed in the years since. First, you said your favorite golf course was Oak Hill, and your favorite hole was in golf was the 18th there. And who can blame you after the 7-iron you hit there to win the PGA? But is that your favorite golf memory, or is it still your favorite golf course and favorite hole to play?
Well, I mean, I think those questions are obviously geared to try to generate a certain response, and I think, you know, I gave the right response. I mean, I love Oak Hill. I love those types of golf courses. I really do. I've always loved the old traditional tree line golf courses. You know, when I went back last year and played at Oak Hill for the PGA, the golf course was much different than it was when I won in 2000. But it still had the same feel. They've left a lot of that intact. The trees, just the rolling hills. I love those styles of golf courses. You know, when people think about your favorite golf course, it can be a great memory, or is it going to be the most fun that you've ever had on the golf course? I don't really know the answer to that. There's been a lot of great things that have happened to me. I've experienced a lot of fun moments with by myself, with my father. I mean, one of the best events that I can recall being in was right after the PGA was getting invited to play the Dunhill Links Championship by Johan Rupert, who runs Dunhill and Cartier and all those companies. And I was able to take my father on this trip, and he was going to play as my partner. So that eight or 9 days, that I was in St. Andrews, Scotland with my father was maybe some of the best golf and the most fun golf that I've ever been able to play. But I still love Oak Hill. I remember every single hole. I remember every single shot that I hit on Sunday. You know, it's definitely going to be the most memorable course. It had the most impact really on me as a professional golfer. So, you know, it's right there at the top. I mean, you know, I've played a lot of golf courses, and those are the style of courses I like, the old traditional styles.
You mentioned your father, and in those 20 questions, you know, they asked you about a dream foursome that you would, you know, put together, and you said your father, Dr. Kerry Middlecoff, and Jack Nicklaus. Now, Mr. Nicklaus and Mr. Middlecoff also won at Oak Hill, but is that dream foursome still intact? I know Mr. Middlecoff is from Memphis, where you live, or where, you know. So, is that still the dream foursome for you?
Well, you know, yeah. I mean, I've played with Mr. Nicklaus on several occasions. I got to play with him in one of my first practice rounds at the Masters in 2004. So I've got pictures of him. My son was you know, not even a year old, and so we. My father is always going to be included. I would include my mother if she plays golf. Now, my mother passed away 4 years ago, and you know, but my mother, if she would play golf, I would have included her because they had a huge amount to do with me going into golf, becoming a professional. You know, there's countless stories of my mom and I driving to these AJGA events. I remember one, we got lost in Texarkana trying to find a golf course. We were going to Louisiana, and we were going that way for some reason. And we were driving around before GPS and all that. But, you know, they did so much for me growing up that she would be included. Now, Kerry Middlecoff I'd met on several occasions. You know, he passed away, but was a huge legend around Memphis and really around the golfing world. And, you know, I got three different eras. You know, I got me in there, and I got Mr. Nicklaus in there that played obviously in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and then I got Kerry Middlecoff, who's pretty much done with playing golf, you know, probably in the early 70s. You know, but just the stories that I heard, you know, Lauren Roberts is a good friend of mine, and he knew Kerry pretty well. And just the stories that he told were legendary. And I mean, it'd just be neat to be out with him. I mean, there's a lot of great golfers that you'd like to meet, but, you know, my dad will always be in that foursome.
You mentioned playing with Mr. Nicklaus in a practice round in the Masters in 2004. So I'm imagining that's your first time playing at Augusta National. What was that like to take a trip around Augusta National with Mr. Nicklaus?
Well, you know, I'd known the Nicklaus family for a while. Gary played at Ohio State when I was at Indiana, so I'd been around them a little bit. And then after I turned professional and got onto the PGA Tour, I signed with Golden Bear Sports Management. So I had been in Mr. Nicklaus's office there in Palm Beach and had gotten a chance to talk to him and gotten to know his sons. And the only one I haven't met is Nan, the daughter. But, you know, to be able to go around with him and just pick his brain a little bit about on certain shots and everything. Now, the golf course had just changed. I think that was the first year when they had lengthened the golf course and made all the changes, significant changes to the golf course there. So the course had changed, and it was interesting that we got to 17, and we went back to where he had made that putt, where everybody knows Vernon Lundquist went, yes, sir, you know, and he's kind of gone on to tell me that he went back the next year and that putt broke differently. So, you know, they change the greens every year. I think they kind of kill off the greens, and I don't know if they dig them up or if they just tear the top layer of soil off to kind of get new grass on the greens. But he said that he went back the next year and hit that same putt, and it broke a different way. So it was fun. I mean, but to answer your question quickly, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was to be out there, the amount of respect that he commanded from the fans, and they were just lined, and it was fun to be a part of that. And again, this game has given me a lot of great memories, and that's another one that you know, sticks with me.
So a couple of days later, right, you're going to be, you know, teeing off for the first time in the Masters. Now there's 8 months between when you won the PGA and the opening round of the 2004 Masters. Can you describe what's the feeling like when you're standing up on the first tee and the Masters starter says, "4, please, the reigning PGA champion Shaun Micheel now driving"?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty quick like that. You know, well, you know, another cool thing that happened to me was that I was playing behind Arnold Palmer. And Arnold Palmer,
wow,
that was his last Masters.
Yeah.
So I was paired with Colin Montgomery and Jay Haas. Now, that round took, you know, maybe you can go back and find it, how long it took. It took at least 6 hours to play because every tee, every green, Mr. Palmer was getting a standing ovation.
Right.
And so it just took a long time to play that round. But I do remember that was, you know, pretty incredible to be paired, you know, right behind this man who has done, you know, so much for the game. And maybe that took away some of the nerves. I don't know. I mean, I was ready to go, and I had a good pairing. I enjoyed Jay and Colin, of course, and I. We played quite a bit since then. But you know, I was playing great golf. I really was. I felt like my preparation was there. It was just a matter of how I was going to handle the greens. And I ultimately ended up with 7 3-putts that week. I finished 21st or 22nd, and I had 7 3-putts. So that was a little bit disappointing. But just standing there with the starters and the fans and just the amount of respect that these people had for the championship, the course, the guys in the green jacket, it was the quietest I've ever heard anybody on a first tee, and I usually don't mind a little noise. So I got the first tee shot off and running, and then all of us are normally good. Once the first tee shot's off and away and not in too much
right.
trouble, we're happy just to kind of be moving on. You know, it's funny, you know, the first tee when you're standing there, you just feel like you're on you just feel like you're on a stage, and people are just there staring at you, and it's difficult to kind of comprehend and the feeling that you get. It's not always a great feeling. I mean, you know, a lot of times you get to the tee 5-6 minutes early, and you're just standing around thinking, "Oh man, I just want to hurry up and get this over with." And then once you get going, you know, you kind of settle in. And for the most part, you can play golf without having to wait for too long on the tee, so you don't get that feeling again. But that was, you know, it was my third major. Or no, I guess that was, let's say, my first Master. So, you know, I only played a few majors championships, you know, prior to that. I think that was my fourth major now that I think about it. I played 2 U.S. Opens, a PGA that I won, and then the Masters. So it was nerve-wracking, but it was exciting. My family was there. My son was there, and he was, you know, 6 months old. So it was exciting to be able to share all those experiences with my family.
Yeah, and so every moment since then, right? Particularly, you know, in the years when your son became older, your family. Are you conscious of your family? You know, being there on the tee and then walking the golf course with you, or are you so laser focused that really everything just sort of fades off into the background?
I think pretty much like the latter. I mean, I love it when they're there. It gives them an opportunity to kind of be out there and see what I do. Now, my kids are getting a little bit older. My son's 10 and my daughter's 7. So I haven't been as active on the tour in the last couple of years. But really the last time I remember being out for when I was in contention was when Luke Donald won in I think it was 2011 in Tampa. He and I were in the second or third to last group that day. I was playing great that week, and I think I shot one or two over on Sunday, and he ended up winning the tournament. But they were out there for a few holes, and it was exciting for me to be out there while I had a chance to win. And although it was disappointing in the end, they were finally starting to get an understanding of what it was that I do or that I did, when I was playing so well on the tour. But I miss that. My son is getting to the age now where he wants to come out to some events, but there's none for me to get in. I got to get off my rear end and start playing a little bit better to get into these tournaments. He and I are both kind of quietly, looking forward to the Champions Tour in 4 years because he'll be 15 and he'll be able to come out and caddy for me some. And so I look forward to that. But they're really kind of oblivious. They're so busy with what they're doing. There's a lot of things going on in their lives that, getting on an airplane and coming to watch Dad play golf is not at the top of the list for them, for sure. So I need to do a little bit better, and they're proud of me no matter what, and that makes me feel good.
No doubt.
But, I'd like to get out there and give it one more shot on the PGA Tour before my time is come and gone.
You talked a moment ago, pardon me, about you're not opposed to a little noise in the background when you're playing and you're playing well. Does the crowd energize when a birdie putt falls and the crowd roars for you and you're getting the claps and all that sort of thing in between the green and the next tee, and does that help you start getting on a roll? Do you feel the energy from the crowd?
Yeah, I think internally I do. Anybody that's watched me play golf, we're all different out there. I know that the fans, now they want to see guys really getting pumped up and excited. The fist pumps. Keegan Bradley's a perfect example of that. He feeds off that energy. I kind of internally fed off of it. I was never really one to just pump my fists and do anything. Even when I won, I kind of it was kind of a lame fist pump, that I gave after I hit the shot, and it's just not my personality. But I tell you what, I do feed off that inside. I feel great. I like to respond to the fans, or I did, I was playing. But we're all so different out there, and it seems to be that a lot of the fans and the media, they want us to be that way. They want a lot of Keegans to show some excitement out there, and I think it's in all of us. We're just not all comfortable bringing it out. And so yeah, internally I felt it. I felt the love. I appreciated it, and I did my best to kind of keep rolling with it. And some of the guys they make a few birdies and they keep on going, and some of the guys make a few birdies and they try to just hold on. So we're all different. It is ultimately entertainment what we're doing out there, and I think a lot of us have kind of failed to realize that over the course of our careers. Now, it is my job. It is our job. And, I've told people this. I'm like, look, if you want to pay me a salary and you want to rank me wherever you wanted to rank me and pay me, I will go for every par 5. I'll try to drive every par 4 green. I'll run around and high-five everybody on every green. I'll sign while I'm playing. But it's just not the case. You're just not able to do that. You have to have some sort of self-control out there. And, I guess you just can't always go for it. Now, there's going to be a lot of people that argue me. That's a great line in Tin Cup. The lady says, I've never been with a man that always went for it. And I see that in some guys. And there are parts of me that wish that I would have been a little bit more like that in my younger days. But isn't it crazy? We all can look back on things. Like, if I just would have done this just a little bit differently, it really wasn't been so bad,
Yeah.
And those are some of the things I look back on and think, maybe I should have been a little more aggressive, or maybe I should have been a little bit more in tune with my fans and high fives and all those types of things. But, you live your life as it comes, as it presents itself, and you deal with it. You just hope that when your career is over and your life is over, you look back and most of the things that you did made a difference, and you can look yourself in the mirror every day and feel like, I'm giving 100%. And that's all you can do. We all have regrets. We all will have regrets. And, those are some of the things that I wish in my career, my golfing career, that I wish I could have, maybe done a little differently.
You say you're looking forward to getting out on the senior PGA Tour, and would it be different out there because typically on the Champions Tour there aren't cuts, so if you're in an event, you're in the event. So does it give you an opportunity to reinvent yourself a little bit and do some of the things? If you look back in your career and you have some regrets of not doing this or that, to change that on the Champions Tour?
Yeah, maybe you do. Look, those guys are so good. I mean, look at Bernard Langer, what he's doing. The PGA Tour has so many things you're playing for. You're playing for, FedEx Cup points. You're playing for your position in the playoffs. You're playing to finish high enough in the money list to get in the Invitational. There's so many things to play for, and now you're starting to see that in the Champions Tour, the Charles Schwab Cup. I mean, these guys are grinding. They really want to win. I mean, they were competitors. That competitive fire doesn't leave. It never leaves you. And, I think what I'm seeing from the guys out there is that they enjoy being around each other's company. I mean, even at my age, I'm 45. When I get into a PGA Tour event or the PGA Championship or whatever it may be, I go into the locker room or I go into the players' dining, there's a lot of people I don't know who are. There's a lot of wives, there's a lot of girlfriends, there's a lot of players that are just young, and because I'm not as active on the tour, I don't follow the tour very much. And so, and that's what you hear about the guys on Champions Tour. I know Lee Jansen came out last week and played, and I heard, they were just giddy little kids to be out there and, to maybe get away from the pressures of all these things. You got to meet the expectations of your fans, your family, your sponsors. There's all these things that you have to do, and we all feel that in our jobs, whether you're in sales and you got to meet a quota at the end of the month or whatever it is. There's all these pressures that you have to feel, and ours are just a lot more public, I suppose. And from the sense that I'm getting out there is these guys are having a great time. They still want to win, but it's just a lot more fun. There's a lot more stories. You can relax a little bit. And Skip Kendall sent out a tweet last week, and he said, "I'm on the range at 4 o'clock. Nobody's here. Everybody must be going for the early bird special." So he's this is his first week out there, and I know how excited he is. So I look forward to getting out there.
You're exempt to play in the PGA Championship until you're 65 years old. So you got to play earlier this year, at Valhalla. You talk about the competitive fire and kind of looking back at 03. Does being in that arena, the PGA Championship, having won there, being a part of that event, does it get you? You talk about amped up a little. Does it get you a little more amped up for that tournament than maybe any other?
I think it does when you're playing well. The last couple of years have really kind of been a struggle. This year actually was playing okay. For anybody that doesn't know, I've had 2 heart surgeries this year, and I'm on a bunch of medication that doesn't always agree with me when it's late in the afternoon or it's hot. And I've really had to work my way through that. Spent a lot of time with my doctor in trying to figure these things out. And it's difficult. It's difficult to play. I have my good days, and I have my bad days. And Friday was a bad day. But I, when you're playing well, all these tournaments, they're fun to be in. You relish the opportunity to play a challenging golf course. And when you're not playing so well, man, you don't want to be there. And I felt like I was playing okay. I mean, I hadn't played a lot of tournament golf this year, and so I didn't have a lot of playing experience. And this year, I only played Valhalla one other time. A couple of years ago, but it's a tough test. The eyes are definitely not on me, and I felt so there were parts of me that felt kind of bad. I think I see the trophy, and I just I look back and I was like, I wish I was just playing a little bit better golf. But I do love it. I do love the fact that when I get announced as a 2003 PGA champion, it's a feeling of satisfaction, gratification, all those things. Of all the hard work that I put in, all those years, to knock one of those things off. I think I was derailed a lot by a shoulder surgery, which Dr. Andrews fixed in 2008, and then, this heart problem I've got, it's just, I look back at these things like, I guess I said earlier, maybe my time has kind of come and gone, but when I tee off at the PGA Championship and I'm announced as a winner, it means a great deal to me. And it takes me back to 03, because I think about that tournament, that championship, and what it was, and what it meant to me to be the champion. So, I love it. I think I can still compete. You won't see me there when I'm 65, and you may not see me there in another 10 years. The golf courses are getting so long now. But anyhow, I got the little ones getting in the car with me, so we're heading to a soccer tournament.
Very nice. Good for you. I hope your son does really well. I can't thank you enough, Shaun, for taking time out of your Saturday morning to be a part of the show. You're fantastic. I love talking to you. Goodness knows I could talk to you all day long. I hope you'll come back and join us again real soon. And in the meantime, best of luck to you, your health, and to your son at his soccer event.
I'll tell him. Chris, thanks so much. I always enjoy being on your show, and call me anytime. You got my number.
All right. Take care, Shaun. All the best to you and
Thanks,
your family.
Chris. Okay. See you.
Bye-bye. Shaun Micheel. I tell you, Shaun is such a delight to talk to, and I mean that sincerely. I could talk to Shaun all day long, listen to him to tell stories about his time in and around the game. So many other things I wanted to get to. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough time. But great guy, and I'm honored to have him as part of the show with me this morning. All right, it's time for us to put a bow on this one. I want to let you know about a great new book that's out. You heard me talk about it last week. It's called A Golden 18, written by Roger Schiffman, and the photography is done by one of our friends and one of the greatest photographers on the planet, Jim Mandeville. Jim, I'm sure you know, is the director of photography at the Nicklaus Companies. The book showcases some of Mr. Nicklaus's greatest golf course designs. The stories about the courses are great, and the photography is simply outstanding. In fact, they're so good, you're going to want to buy a second copy of the book so you can take some of the pictures out and frame them. To get your copy, go to nicklaus.com and hover over the Products and Partners tab, and then click on Books and Videos. If you love the game of golf and stunning photography, you're going to love this book. All right, everybody, it's time to put a bow on this episode. My sincere thanks to Steve, Mona, and Shaun Micheel for being such great guests this morning. And I thank you, of course, for tuning in. We appreciate you the very most. Please check out our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate. You heard me mention it a little bit when Steve was with us on the show. My co-host, Bob Lazari, and our announcer, Joe LaGenusa. Every week, we talk to members of the NFL and CFL. We are official partners with the NFL Alumni Association. So you want to talk about some great stories. When we're talking to the legends of the NFL, they've got great stories to share with us every single week. Please check us out as well on Facebook. You can find us Next on the Tee and ThursdayNightTailgate.com. Give us a like. That's important to us, too. And if you've got a comment, a question, or something you would like us to ask one of our guests that's going to be coming up on the show, let us know. We're glad to ask that question for you on the air. You can find us online as well at nextonthetee.net and ThursdayNightTailgate.com. By going to either site, you can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free and keep up to date with who our future guests are going to be. Thank you again for choosing to listening to Next on the Tee and being a part of the show with me this morning. I can't thank you enough. We appreciate you guys the very most. And until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.